Okay, let's bring in the CrossFit Cowboy himself, Sean Sweeney. Sean, how you doing, man?
Doing awesome. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Thanks for being here. You've had a lot going on in your life recently. Just update us on everything that's going on in the world of Sean Sweeney.
Man, it has been a lot. Where do I start here? Okay, so basically starting in this winter in February with the open starting, and then I'm actually in here right now, this bus that my new wife, which is the next part we're getting to, we had the competition season start. We bought this school bus, fully remodeled it and turned it into a badass RV.
Yeah, it's
and
nice,
it's
man.
all ready to rock. It's pretty cool. So we did it with that was going on, plus obviously running the gym as normal, and Em and I are only employees, so we do everything there. We coach every single class and do everything. So it's kind of busy. And then with the game season as per usual, and weddings, I had a million weddings this year, and bachelor parties that were relatively close to major competitions, the West Coast. Luckily, that still went incredibly well. But then we got married, and then we had the games. As soon as we got back from the games, then it was the next weekend was my buddy's wedding, then my bachelor party, M's bachelor party, another wedding, our wedding, honeymoon. It was just like stacked, and it's been a really crazy but very awesome year. So it's been something else.
Oh man. And the last time we saw you at the games, I believe you had to withdraw due to injury. How's that going?
It's going good, man. So that was really crappy. I typically rent like a RV or a toy hauler or some sort of whatever, something to stay at the campgrounds with. And so I did that again this year, which is awesome. I love being on site. It's actually, if you're an athlete watching this, people are not even loud there. It's just amazing being on site. So I love doing that. And we stay in our toy hauler or bus or whatever all the time. So we're very used to it. And so I rented this one, and we got it on Monday, the check-in day of the games. And so we're sleeping there on Monday night, and wake up in the middle of the night, throat's closed up, head swelled up, like massive, like allergic reaction to something, and can't breathe. And so we get out of there, go to a buddy's hotel, come back, and we're like, what the hell? We don't know what got it. So the next day, my wife and my buddy just fully, like, completely bleached the entire RV down, got it all ready to rock, and then we were good to go. So they got all new, bedding, and everything in that whole place was all brand new. And then I was good. I just felt like I had gnarly allergies is all it felt like, but I have pretty chronic allergies, not a big deal. So then comes around day one of the games, Wednesday, and I don't feel sick. I feel odd. I feel like I have gnarly allergies, but like, hell, that's not a big deal. And so I'm competing, and I just feel like I just felt like I was underwater a little bit. I was just like, but I didn't feel sick. It was a very odd feeling. It was like, I just, some days, you have an off day where you have absolutely no gas. That's kind of how I felt. And so I did that swim. The swim was the first event. And typically I don't think I've ever come out of the water lower than like third, fourth, or fifth. Like, I'm always pretty good in the water. And this one was with fins, and it was a longer swim, and I was stoked. I was like, this is the best possible case scenario. Like, I don't see any reason I should be less than top 3 in this event. And when I came out of the water, was when I was coming back, I was like, when I was looking at where I was at, I was just like, holy shit, I'm not even close to the top of the pack here. And so then I switched from my side stroke, my typical combat side stroke. I switched to freestyle and ate up a bunch of ground there, and I made up some spots, but I was still like, I don't know, like 10th out of the water or something like that. And I was like, this is just weird, and finished the event. No big deal. I was like, okay, maybe that was just a error. Maybe I just, like, with everyone having fins, it's less technical now. You can just kick really hard with your fins, and maybe everybody swimming just came up. I don't know. And then we did the next, I think, order of operations is all off here. But once we did the muscle up event. That one I was really excited for as well. I'm pretty relatively good at muscle ups. The odd object stuff's relatively good for me. And I remember in that event just taking huge breaks in the muscle ups and just like being panicky. And I got almost last, I think, in that event. I want to say I was 35th or something. I did really, really bad in it. And I just chalked it up to a bad day. Then comes the wall walk thruster one in the Coliseum. And I do that event. And in that event is where I felt like something's not right. So at the end of that event, I was in full blown like survival mode. And I finished right after the buzzer, which apparently is a freaking theme of this weekend. I finished the work right after the buzzer, finished the final thruster. And then I go back into the belly of the Coliseum and I just like collapse, like hyperventilating, like I'm jacked up. And I'm just like, what is happening? Like, holy shit, I got my ass whooped today. Like, I feel like this is my rookie year of the games again. And that's all I chalked it up to be. And I didn't really think any further of it. And my wife and my buddy were just, they know me obviously super well. They were like, there's something's not right with him. And me and my coach both were like, no, it was a CrossFit Games. Believe it or not, shit's hard. And then I woke up that Thursday morning and I couldn't even get out of bed barely. I was absolutely hammered. So I had a sinus infection, an upper respiratory infection, and the flu. Believe it or not, the flu still exists. And so I was all sorts of jacked up all day, got on a Z-Pack immediately. And luckily my mom's got, she's kind of big in the hospital world and kind of really got me hooked up. So I started to get working on that stuff and just, try to go from there. Then on Friday morning, same thing, could barely even get out of bed. In the warm-up area, I failed a 100-pound D-ball clean to pick up a 100-pound D-ball. And I was absolutely wrecked. I'd walk a couple of feet and have to sit down. And I was just jacked up, that upper respiratory infection, sinus infection, like all of that. It just kind of, it whopped me hard. And I figured, okay, well, I'm here. I might as well go try that final event or that final event that I did, that first event on Friday. And, and so I went out there and I think the fastest I ever got to ski was like a 2:10 or something like that. And I was just absolutely in molasses. And, I kind of knew at that point where I was at that, this was pretty much the end of my CrossFit Games. I kind of knew that in that moment. I was like, this is not something that's going away. And nobody wants to spend their, which was the next kind of reveal, their last CrossFit Games. No one wants to spend that on the floor staring at implements, being able to do 30% effort on things like, or I guess capacity. I was doing 100% effort, but just, it really sucked. And so after that buzzer went off, I was just like, I'm not leaving this fucking field without finishing this damn workout. So finished that workout, which was one of the cooler and one of the, I had really mixed feelings about it because as an athlete, as a competitor, nobody ever wants pity cheers. Pity cheers are worse than anything on the planet. And I know that they weren't pity cheers at that point, like now, looking back at it, but it was also a really cool moment to like finish that. And, everybody's been in that kind of crap spot that you don't want to be. And, we see that in our local affiliates all the time is people, finishing after the buzzer won't do that time cap and they're going to finish the work. And I think that it was a really cool moment, but it was leading into the next part, my final CrossFit Games, which I knew coming into this season. So I'm no longer going to be chasing the CrossFit Games, which doesn't mean I'm retiring and freaking old. I'm 30 years old for shit's sake. So I'm not retiring and going off to Key West or something, but I'm definitely going to be switching gears here. And I still am training, every day I'm doing my Cowboy Way program, but now all of really all of our time is going into our online program. So as I start out to be a CrossFit Games athlete, a decade ago last month, by the way, 10 years ago, at first I just really loved CrossFit, and I wanted to see what I could do as a competitor, and wanted to see if I could make the games. That was the ultimate goal. And then once I made the games, I was like, well, I kind of want to do that again. And then I made my goal to be top 10. And I've always been extremely, I'm very, I guess, pragmatic, if you will, about performances at the games and what it takes to be where. And I knew that with my priorities and as much as I was involved in the gym and with the schedule that I held, and that it was ridiculous for me to think that I could win the games with the amount of training that I'd been putting in. And who knows if I could possibly, physically or not, that's a whole nother question. But I knew for sure that if you want to be the best in the world, you got to be training like the best in the world. And that's not where my priorities was. I was going to be as fit as I possibly could with keeping, helping others find their love for fitness. And that's what I really love to do, is to coach and to help other people that way. So my goal was top 10, and this was such a bittersweet year, because this was I feel like the most fit I'd ever been at that West Coast Classic. I felt like I did very well for me. When I took third there, and there was a couple of guys that were pretty good there, like 15 games vets or some crazy thing. And I really felt like this was my year to come out and have a really strong finish, and then have that kind of play out the way it did was a bummer. But ultimately, I've been to the games 4 times now, and I kind of have built a bit of a brand, or some sort of I've done at least, I think, enough for people to take what I say relatively seriously in the world of fitness. And now to be able to use that kind of momentum, or have that audience, and to be able to transition into this next phase is honestly kind of like a dream come true. I feel like now I'm finally teed up to have this past decade of work really pay off. So as a competitor, I lose 20, 30 grand a year competing. Like, I won a grand total of $3,000 in 2021. So it cost me. It's like I'm a middle-aged guy with a really expensive golf habit. It's kind of how my CrossFit Games thing has gone. And if at some point your wife's like, "Don't buy those new fucking clubs. Like, get a
You're
job.
not going to get any better."
Yeah. So I'm really excited here. So now we officially kicked off, or we had our first event that we did on 3 weekends ago. Went to a competition, had a booth. Em and I made every damn t-shirt by hand with the vinyl, it prints it out in machine. You weed it out. We spent, and we were like a little sweatshop in our house for forever. And every waking moment was making our shirts. I do 100% of the programming myself, and all of the communication with members and everything. And the thing that's really cool that I'm super excited about our program is that 20% of all of our revenue goes into athlete fund that goes back to members. So I think that's awesome. So my whole, I guess, mission in life is to positively affect others through fitness. And I feel like our workhorses of the CrossFit community, just like our gym goers, they go to the gym, they do an hour a day class. Maybe they do extra. They want to be competitive and they're training for a couple hours, whatever, but they are the ones that are buying all the products. They're the ones that are filling up our affiliates. They're the backbone of the whole community. And nobody really gives back to those guys. They're always giving to everybody else. They're really supporting all of the brands. They're doing everything that way. And which obviously we'll have to support mine as well. But being able to give back to those guys is something that I can't wait to do. And I already have done. I've sent an Echo Bike to a guy in Germany, the sandbags, grips, heart rate monitors, stuff like that. So I take 20% of our memberships and put it into an athlete fund. And then if athletes need help with equipment, with travel to competitions, with anything fitness related, like sky's limit, if it's related to fitness, let's help you do that. And so I've started doing that. And now, as I'm really switching gears and not spending the majority of all of my free hours training, can't wait to grow this. And if we can, I can't even imagine if I can have let's just say if I get a few hundred, right now we have like 65 people on a program. If we have 350 people on the program and we're able to give back $2,000 a month, that's my goal in the next 18 months or so. Imagine just being able to send a rower, a sandbag, a D-ball, heart rate monitor, whatever, all of that every month, and being able to hook someone up, or have one of our athletes that's in the intermediate division at Wadapalooza that qualifies and says, hey, I live in Ohio. I can't get to, Florida. I don't have any sponsors. Damn, Skippy, yes, you do. And book their flights and help them out that way.
Yeah.
It's something I'm just crazy excited about. So I'm, as much as this is a kind of a weird, bittersweet transition, like you never want to stop chasing the games and whatnot. I guess it's just kind of a weird spot. I couldn't be happier with where I'm going.
You mentioned that you knew going in this year that this was going to be your last year. When did you know that you were going to make the decision to retire?
I think the end of last year, probably of the 20. But I guess that was the 2020 year. At the end of that year, I think that I there is a point, as an athlete, there's a point where it is definitely work. You love what you do, but it's work to be at that level. And as I really assess my priorities, which is something that I do relatively often, actually take my razor up on a mountaintop over there and sit there and drink coffee and write them out. But as I kind of really assess my priorities, I knew that Em and I were getting married. We were wanting to start a family, and we have no money. And so I was like, well, it's time to make a little bit of a change coming up soon here. And it started to be more work to do training and to justify, like, all right, well, I have this online program that I do all the work anyways, because that's what we do at my gym and for all our athletes locally. And so I do all of the work anyway. So I've had it available online for people to purchase, but I just haven't really pushed that, just because as a one-man shop there, it's a lot to take on. So I just knew that it was getting close to time, and I was just ready. I was ready to take the next step, and I really wanted to chase this next adventure of building this business. And I don't know exactly when or how that happened, but it kind of just slowly crept in. And then I told myself that this is my last year. I'm going out with a bang. And so I trained harder. I trained, I'd say, harder than ever. I think every year I train harder than ever. And after my performance in Vegas at the West Coast, I really felt that I could have a breakout performance this year. And whether it was or not, if I would have been some crazy, if I would have came out of the woods and got first, it wouldn't have mattered. I would have retired this year one way or another. But yeah, I kind of knew that coming in. It's just the next step.
Yeah. It's interesting because I think, one of the things you mentioned about was like the brand that you've built for yourself. And I think that's one thing that will be missing now that you effectively retire from chasing the games, was that I would say, and part of the reason why I'm wearing this hat, I felt like you more so than anyone else were able to genuinely enjoy the experience of being on the competition floor in a lighthearted way, in contrast to some of the other athletes that were so like almost like tense and the exact opposite end of the spectrum in that. And I'm curious how that kind of came to be, because we've talked about it offline before in the past, and it seems like that's an authentic element of who you are and how you best compete. Would you say that's true?
Absolutely. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think that something that people really I think people can really misjudge that for is lack of caring. Because if you knew me personally at all, you would know for a fact that's not the case. I give it my absolute best, and I try my hardest. I think the difference is, for me, I think that I'm aware I think I'm aware enough of what I expect from myself. And I demand what I expect. It's not just some bullshit goal. If I say I want to, like this year I wanted to be top 10, and I truly believed that I could do it, and I expected that of myself. Obviously, did not go that way. But I think that it's easy to get upset and lose sight of how much you love what you're doing when you have unrealistic expectations. So I listen to people say this all the time, that if you're at the CrossFit Games and if you don't think you can get first place, then what are you even doing there? And I think that's about the craziest thing I've ever heard. I can go into MIT and try to take one of their tests and expect to ace it. I can sure as shit do that. Is that reality? No. And all I'm going to do is just be upset and pissed that I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Can't even spell MIT. So I think that being realistic with your goals and expectations allows you to enjoy the moment. And so when I'm on the floor, I ask myself if I did everything in my power in that moment. And if it's a yes, I'm happy with that. And of course, nobody's happy with, a less than top end performance. But at the West Coast Classic, if that event would have ended and I would have gotten if I would not have qualified for the games, I would have been happy with my performance, because I knew in my heart that I laid 100% absolute effort on every single event. And that's something that I really try to keep as my true north, and let that be my main focus. And I think that especially with the pressures, if you're a CrossFit Games athlete, just like me, I'm embarrassed that I got, whatever at the CrossFit Games, even though I withdrew, my name's on 30 something place at the CrossFit Games 2021 leaderboard. That's embarrassing as an athlete, but you also have to realize that that's at the CrossFit Games. That's it's very different. So it's so easy to get caught up with that. So I think that a lot of people at the games will get too consumed about what others may think of their performance, or they're expecting too much too early of themselves. You know what I mean? If you're a new guy and you expect to be a Justin Medeiros, you shouldn't expect that. If it happens, fucking more power to you. What a stud. But you cannot go in and expect that, because you have to realize that there's 39 other dudes with the exact same expectations. What makes you so special? Well, the only thing that would make you special like that is your preparation. And if your preparation wasn't at that level, then you cannot expect the performance of yourself. So I think that that's a little bit of why I can get out on the competition field and truly enjoy what I do, because I know that I've put in the work to be where I'm at. I expect X out of myself. And if I know that if I gave every single bit of effort, then I'll do that. And I tell you what, it's a lot easier to go balls to the wall and give everything you have with a smile on your face than being pissed off about it. You know what I mean? It's a lot easier to get someone to clean your house by saying, "Hey, here's a $10,000 if you clean my house." They'll clean that sumbitch a lot better than if you say, "If you don't clean my house well, I'm going to whip you with a stick." So that's kind of where I'm.
Yeah.
When you look back on your career, what are the moments, the experiences that will stand out the most to you?
Oh, wow. I should have thought about this, but there are some that just jump out. Number one, 2016 games. That was just a while. Everybody's rookie year of the games is always a straight up whirlwind, as far as I've talked to with everybody. And legitimately, after the first year, or the first couple events at the ranch on the CrossFit Games, I was just like, I don't think I want to do this anymore. I don't think I like the CrossFit Games. This really hurts. And there was no fans, and it was just this whole whirlwind of events. I got my ass kicked. And I was just like, what in the fuck am I doing here? And then as that weekend wore on, it got better every event. And if you talk to somebody about their rookie year, more than likely it went somewhere along these lines. How they vocalize it, probably a little different. But I remember the final event of the 16 games was the pegboard event. It was I think they called it Redemption.
Yep.
I want to say it was pegboard thruster ?
Yeah, I think so.
Yes. Yeah. And I remember I won my heat in that event, and I'm relatively good at pulling, and the pegboard's wasn't an issue for me, and I won my heat. And I remember running across the finish line. The tennis stadium was going nuts, and it was just like every second of my effort of training at that point was worth it in that one moment. And after that, I was like, oh, I'm coming back here. I'm doing that again. And I guess the next standout moment for me, which I was really proud of myself for, didn't turn out great, but was in the next year in 2017. I had that ring dip issue that kept me out of the games and at regionals, and that was event 2. So event 2, I was getting no reps for a standard that didn't exist, and it was a really tough moment as a competitor. And we had 50 people at the time. It was that super region. We had 50 people in our region, and I think who knows how many I got. I mean, I did it at least 2 for 1 ring dips easily. Like maybe I did 100 and some ring dips. It's hard to say. And I knew at that point that my mathematical likelihood of making the games after event number 2, first day, was almost 0, because I took like near dead last in that event. And it was really tough because same thing, I expect a lot for myself. And I knew you have to be honest with yourself. And hey, I get no rep competitions because I'm pushing the limits, and I'll get a no rep. In that event, I really feel like it was truly outside of my control, and I was super frustrated. I kept it together on the floor extremely well. I try not to throw temper tantrums and do that whole stuff, and I was proud of how I handled that. And then I was even more proud of when I came back, and instead of giving up and being like, well, there's no shot, I had like one of the best performances of my life following that event, and once again got 6th place, missing the games by 1 spot. But that showing myself that, hey, it doesn't matter your situation, you can still fight out of that hole. I was really proud of that, even though it didn't end so well. 2018, I won that regional, and I felt that year I had felt like I had unlocked some new potential that I wasn't aware was there before. And I will never forget running across, because I'm always happy-go-lucky guy. And I remember running across the finish line after I needed to beat, I can't remember who it was, but I needed to beat X person in this event to lock it in. And it was a thruster rope climb event, and thrusters are not something I'm good at historically. So I would do a lot of fucking thrusters. And went out there and I won the event. And as I come across the finish line, I remember having just pout in my chest and having this whole, I guess like level up moment that I will never forget. And Cape Town 2019, I remember having that dog fight with Cole Sager, because we all went to Cape Town in that qualification process because we thought, hell, nobody's going to travel to South Africa. That was incorrect. Everybody thought like that. So we all go to South Africa, and that was a battle. That was such a fun competition. And I really, I'll always remember that. And man, I guess every year has its standout moment of its high and its low. But as we're talking about this, every single year it does have that stand-up moment. I will never forget the 2020 games that I qualified for. They got uninvited to, that time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember on the final event that I did, it was the 25. It was the wall ball row muscle up.
Yep.
And you can break it up however you want. So I did that, and you had to get top 20 worldwide with the whatever, get above the line to qualify for the games that year. And I've never been an open athlete. I don't do it particularly well on line qualifiers and stuff, kind of a show pony. And I remember I was like, I'm going to qualify this year because it's cheap and because I can't afford to just continue to travel like this.
Mm-hmm.
And so I laid my life on the line. I swear to God. So that event, I did that muscle up event, and I finished relatively well. I think it was a top double digits worldwide for sure. And I was like, if I can do it again and get at just a few seconds faster and give myself the chance to qualify. So I go to do it. And I remember having a full blown out of body experience on the final row, like just watching myself suffer and then being like startled at how bad I was suffering third party wise. It was jacked up. I was watching myself row and just like, you poor bastard, like you're hosed. And I remember getting off of that, and my buddy had to pick me up, put me in a computer chair, lean me against a trash can, and I was puking for like over an hour. And then he would just move me into new spots that I'd fall, and he'd kind of like prop me up and put something under my head, and I'd puke into it. And like, I was just a disaster, but I was so proud that I qualified that year to the Open, that I just went like, I can't imagine going that full send ever again. That was crazy.
That was a great
so every year has something cool.
Yeah. And you had you went 14th worldwide in that event. And that was what kind of propelled you back up into one of those spots. I do have a follow-up to that. One, what pre-workout did you take? And two, can I have some? Because that kind of transcendental experience seems awesome.
Dude. Oh man, it was something else, man. It was such a weird feeling. I also had a similar feeling like that one time in 2014. Had a chipper that had rowing and muscle ups, and you had to do getting back to the rower was like the gold standard. And yeah, anyways, I jacked up my video, and I was on my first year. I qualified for regionals, and I didn't like the way my video looked, so I had to redo it and get the same score. And oh shit, it was the same concept. That damn Indian workout with a row is always like that.
Well, I do. I was going to say one of the memories that definitely stood out to me is when we all got to travel to Brazil together. You had all these 8x10 glossies, and this isn't from Brazil. This is from another time when I bumped into you and you handed me an 8x10 glossy with a signature.
That's
but
right.
I always keep a CrossFit Cowboy signed copy in the old backpack here everywhere I go.
Dude, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen. Yes, bravo. I love that. That's awesome, man. Dude, Brazil was crazy. So people like CrossFit in the United States. People love CrossFit in Brazil. That was probably, not even probably, without question, Brazil was the most insane energy level experience ever. It's like they just like the requirements, everybody had to like do a shot of freaking bang energy into their arm or something like that. It was nuts. I remember in there, I just felt it was the craziest thing. I remember we'd finish the events, every event we'd finish the event, and I like to take time with the fans and give out glossies and sign babies and all that jazz, So I had a good time with it. And I remember we'd finish the event. We had to go like through the crowd and walk up in the stadium. And I'd bring 1 million of those printouts and wristbands and shit. And it would take me legitimately almost until I had to warm up for the next event to get back to the athlete area. And I was just like, I would do terrible things for some water right now because I drank it like 40 minutes ago, but I'm still taking pictures and have fun. And it was the most fun. Like that was such a cool spot.
Oh, yeah. How has the sport changed, what are the biggest sports changes that you have seen in the competitive side of CrossFit from the time that you started till now?
Okay, so here's the deal. The biggest change that I've seen is it really turns into it, and I hate to. It's not a negative, like, cause I know it's going to grow but it's turned into the finance games for sure. Just due to the fact that you have to, so imagine Justin Medeiros, if he would not have won what he won in 2020, right? At the games there, and he won a very solid paycheck. That's going to allow him to focus on training the way he does. It allows the sponsors, and now you can fully go into training mode, and you can train like a professional athlete. I'm in a much more fortunate situation than most people that are trying to make the games. And I still am kind of in a hole that way, and not in a, there's not just any pity party by any means, but the fact of the matter is that now you have to catch some sort of lucky break to be able to train full time, because that's what is required to be at the top nowadays. You can't have, unless we'll just say in general, you can't. It's not impossible. There is someone who could do it, I'm sure. But it is very unlikely that you hold down a 9 to 5 with a family, any sort of social life, there's just no way to train like a CrossFit Games athlete without being a CrossFit Games athlete. So we haven't reached the bridge. It's where now you're either a want to be CrossFit Games athlete without the means or the talent or the time or the money or the whatever, or you catch a lucky break and now all of a sudden you're here. And there's kind of this like we are and we're not group of athletes. And I think that gap has continued to separate each year in CrossFit. How do we fix that? That's a whole new can of worms, but I feel like that is the biggest thing, is that the talent continues to rise every year, but the support to train full time does not rise every year. Like, you put it to you this way, I have qualified for 4, 5, whatever you want to call it. I've been in the flesh to 4 CrossFit Games, and I've won a grand total. You ready for the number at the CrossFit Games? Want to know how much money I've won in 4 years?
I'm trying to think. Couple grand?
$0. I've won $0 at the CrossFit Games in my entire career.
Yeah.
Like $0. It costs me money. Like this year, I didn't even travel. Went to Vegas, had to open, went to Vegas and went to the games. And it cost me like 23 grand to compete this year. Because when I leave the gym, I have to pay people to cover the gym, and tickets, food, the renting the RV, entry fees. I mean, you name it. Like it adds up, and it's wild. Freaking fuel is so expensive right now. In my pickup, I drove to Vegas, and that trip cost me like $6 grand to go to Las Vegas and compete for a week, because I had to do, luckily I had a hotel as well, and long story, but it's astronomical what it takes. So that's the biggest thing that has changed since I've become a competitor. And I think that's something that clearly needs to be addressed, but I'm not the smartest man on the planet and I don't have all the answers, but that is the biggest thing that has changed.
Yeah, that's interesting. You say, I think that's the number one gap that needs to be bridged, that has been discussed in, if you're an athlete that's perennially making it to the games and representing the sport at the highest level, then it should be at least financially viable for you to train year round. And I think right now, at least, that gap is being filled by the people that are willing to, I don't know, I don't want to make it sound derogatory in any way, but, almost kind of like sell out to the social media lifestyle, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh yeah. Believe me.
Yeah, but it just seems like that's what potentially the next evolution needs to be, in terms of, if we talked with Brooks Like about this, former NHL player, about how once you break through, it should be financially solvent for you to stay there and keep competing at least, and train full time. So go ahead.
I think it definitely does, and I think that the way it has to happen, if CrossFit's not going to do that, as far as, because man, it's just so hard to, I don't know. It's not like I have an in with CrossFit and know what they're planning and everything. I just don't see. So my world's rodeo and team roping and all that jazz. And the thing that's bass backwards, which I feel like, and I've always got lots of things, so I'm not going to reveal too much stuff. I'm always cooking on something. But in the world of rodeo, the most lucrative place to be is the beginner stage. Okay. Because the way this works is there's way more beginners than elite athletes in every sport. Doesn't matter what it is. So in rodeo, when you enter, let's say we go to a team roping, a local team roping, the way that this works typically, depending on your circuit, is you go and you have, let's say we're all signing up for a number 5 roping. Okay, and we won't go into, let's call it a beginner roping. There's way more beginners than elite athletes. So that pot might have 1,000 teams in that beginner roping that all pay $150 a man to be there. So you've got 2,000 people paying $150 a man to run down the arena. Then the take is a certain percentage of that pot. So do the math, 300,000, let's just call that 300 grand's in the pot. They'll take, 20% of it goes to the producers, 15% of it goes to this, and now the rest of it is payout. So the more people that play, the more it pays. And I feel like there has to be a way for us to not demand more of sponsors, because I think that everybody also overplays what that means for a brand. When you pay, if you give CrossFit $1 million, are you getting that back as a sponsor, or is that more of a write-off for you? Like, hey, that's a marketing expense. What's the the wash on that? And I don't know, so I'm not going to pretend I do. But I do know that if you can bank on the hard numbers and bank on your participation fees or registration fees get paid back to the athletes, then you don't have to bank on huge sponsors. You're generating it by your participation alone. So I feel like there's got to be a way to have some sort of system to where which once again, I have kind of thought about this in depth and I have some sort of half-assed plan, but you have to be numbered and there has to be a qualification system, and you got to know, are you intermediate? Are you a advanced? Are you elite? Are you, we got to have these different tiers to where you can enter a competition with a mass amount of people and you're actually in the correct division. And once you have a certain amount of performance metrics, which rodeo has this, golf has this, tons of other sports have this, you now get bumped to the next division. But now it might be able to be actually financially viable to start, because you can start as a intermediate level athlete and you just happened to win one of we'll call it Wadapalooza. We haven't talked to them at all about any of this, but let's just say Wadapalooza, you won the intermediate division and you just won 400 grand. Like, okay. Like that, like my brother. So my brother, he's a, novice roper. He's a very good roper, but as far as like the pro, he's not a pro by any means. He's in the novice level, divisions. And he won 180 grand in 2019.
Wow.
180 grand he won roping, and will regularly go win in 30, 40 grand, in pots. And for the beginner, in the intermediate or whatever, and not the pro division. The pro divisions get much less because there's less people. So I feel like it's not, when you say it like that, like, oh man, an intermediate might win $500,000 at some major CrossFit competition. It's laughable, but it shouldn't be. So I think there's a way to rodeo this sport.
I like that. Wrangle it.
Wrangle this sport.
Along those lines, do you feel like the athletes, because you're not the only person who has voiced these concerns, and I don't know how much interaction you've had with CrossFit on this, but do you feel like these ideas are at least being heard? And if not, why not?
I'm not sure. So like I said, I don't have, this is stuff to where, and once again, if you're someone at CrossFit, listen to this is not, I haven't talked to anybody at CrossFit about this. And I think that one of the downfalls of CrossFit is that they don't use us more. As athletes, we got a pretty good idea of what we would like to see in the sport, what we think works. And it would appear that our opinions would matter in that aspect. It also appears that you could leverage us more. I feel like they could really use our opinions more and use us as humans more. And what if CrossFit in their level 1, and if they really helped us to, there's just so many options, but bottom line is no, I don't think that they do, as far as I am aware, reach out and take our feedback from that effectively well. And I'm not sure if it's a priority for them or not. I don't really know, because I haven't talked to them. So I have no opinion in that matter. But I also know that everybody who is like me, who's relatively good at fitness, but is not, is not one of the top dogs. We do this because we love it. So if you reached out to pick a person. You reach out to ex CrossFit Games athlete or past CrossFit Games athlete and as CrossFit and say, hey, will you help us improve our system? Every person would say yes. Every person would say yes. So I think that there could be a really cool way forward is just use the people that love this sport anyways. And I guarantee you, using all of those people and all of that time and energy, that we can come up with a pretty cool plan to help the next generation. You know what I mean? I think we really could.
Yeah. Sure.
And so I think that's with this, with part of my idea with this, my online program is to really reach those people and help people get started. Like right now, I only have 60 something people, but I plan on adding 100 in the next 6 months. And that's a big deal. And if I can generate enough income, and let's just say, and this is obviously ambitious, but let's pretend that we'll take street parking. And they make an astronomical amount of monthly membership dues. I mean, it's in the hundreds of thousands if I'm not mistaken. If you took 20% of those and we're able to funnel that back to the members, like I can't wait to do that. If I can make, let's just say $100,000 a month, and I can take $20,000 a month and hook up new people with equipment and travel and really give back to those guys and get someone started. Like, who knows whose fire gets lit for that? You give Justin Medeiros when he was 15. What if he was a Cowboy Way member and said, hey, I'm really starting to take this seriously. And I would love to be able to go train at X spot or whatever, who knows, get a freaking biker, who cares? And that somebody was able to really support him on that journey. Who knows how many more Justin Medeiros is there to be coming out of the woodworks. So I can't wait to do that. And I think that the difference in what I'm going to do next is to start doing that, is to take action and, put my money where my mouth is a little bit and really start helping exactly what we're talking about. So this is if you're listening to this is nothing that I've said as any way been a knock on what we're doing. There's always ways to elevate what we're currently doing. And I think that I'm really excited to start really putting in the work to help elevate that. Mm-hmm. So I've got competition ideas. I've got a little trademark I've already got set for. I've got lots of stuff in the background that is kind of getting, hopefully getting ready to do some of this stuff.
Let me ask you just one last question before we let you go. But I get the feeling that CrossFit, the sport, is in sort of its second infancy right now. And I am optimistic about where it's going. Still, I think a lot needs to be done, and most people would agree on that. What is your feeling about where this is headed right now?
So we're at right now. I think we're at a crossroads right now. I think that we are seeing Rogue, and there are potential other like Wadapalooza Rogue off-season events that are starting to pony up. And we are either going to see CrossFit become the sideshow, or we're going to see it take a whole new step forward. And it really has to do one or the other, because someone's going to pick up the slack. People love CrossFit. We're on a freaking podcast talking about exercising quickly right now. People love this shit. It's not going away. So somebody's going to pick this ball up and start carrying it. And I hope that it's CrossFit, because coming from the founders and the top and having them really lead the way, I think would be a really, really cool thing. And I truly hope that it is the CrossFit Games that continues to be the pinnacle of our sport, and that is the best help to our athletes. As much as I love Rogue, and Rogue has helped out, they do so much. I think it's starting to become, I would hate to see being the Rogue champion be more important than being the CrossFit Games champion. I'd hate to see that happen. And I think that we are heading that direction. And that's a huge applause to Rogue, because they have done so much to help everybody in the sport. But I'd hate to see that transition happen. So I think we're at a crossroads. We're either going to see somebody pick up the ball and run with it, or we're going to see CrossFit go ahead and revamp the entire system, which it doesn't have to be revamped that much.
Yeah.
I think they just need to include the community. You can't, if you say you lose money at the CrossFit Games every year, don't make that your money making part of it. The elite athletes are not the ones that are paying the way. We pay $250 to come, get our asses kicked for a week. That's not gonna cut it. Like, we have to create more opportunity for the everyday Joes. That's what I'll say. Oh, but on that tangent is because I'm retiring does not mean I'm done competing.
Oh,
I
good.
will still, yes, I will still absolutely be competing at high level competitions that I choose. So the difference is that if you're a CrossFit Games athlete, I would be in full-time training right now. Thank God, no more bike sprints. But so I would be, from November till August is full time. Like you're training. You're not fucking around. And now I will simply be like, okay, this year I think I'm going to try to do whatever, Rogue or Wadapalooza or West Coast or whatever it is. And I'll peak and train really hard for that. I'll spend a couple of months prepping, do that event, and then be a normal human that has other priorities. So cool. Hopefully you don't see all CrossFit people start doing that, because I think that if we continue down this road, that's what's going to start happening. Is people will be like, okay, I'm going to do one big event a year and be super in shape, but it's not going to consume my entire year because it's not worth it to in the CrossFit Games track right now.
So as far as you winding up at the games again, you're saying there's a chance.
So honestly, this year, no. Okay. This year, no. But yeah, there certainly is. And I swear to God, I'm serious. I want to be a CrossFit Games Masters athlete until I keel over.
Heck
so
yeah.
I'm pretty sure
I love
once
that.
I hit 35, what the fuck not? I love fitness. I love training. The difference, the Masters is going to get more competitive every year, but you're delusional if you don't think there is some degree of difference between the open division and the 35 division. But I will 1000% be a CrossFit Games master. And I hope to do that until I'm 60 plus.
Heck yeah.
That's great. So it's more of I'm not going to say it's not a retirement. It's more of a reshuffling of priorities. We're
shifting gears, boys.
All right. That's good enough. Because
like
I still want to see you out there on the competition floor with the hat and the smile. And I think you have definitely left the sport better than you found it. And we appreciate everything you were doing. Love having the conversation and the ideas that you have. And I think more of that type of stuff will continue to move this in the right direction. I am optimistic about where we are going. Yeah, but I think the more people who are included in that conversation, the better, because we all want the best for the sport.
Absolutely. Well, thank you guys. I appreciate you taking the time and having me on here. And Tommy, you keep that handlebar going strong. I love that thing. I can't stop looking at it.
Sean, thank you so much, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, and best of luck with the shifting of gears, not necessarily the retirement, and all the best to your family.
Right on. Thanks. You too, guys. Cheers.